was lost, didn't wanna go, didn't wanna stay where I was, but realized I needed to change who I was and recognize whose I am. I'm a child of God, that's who I am, and now I know that you need me. Of it all and all I give right back to Him, because I am no longer bound. Oh, I was lost, didn't wanna go, didn't wanna stay where I was, but realized I needed to change who I was and recognize whose I am. Oh, I'm a child of God, that's who I am, and now I know that you mean me.
All right, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of With Audacity, the podcast where we always try to educate, promote, and uplift the community, doing everything unapologetically and with audacity. And today we are joined by a very special guest, Dr.Mimi Sanders, and we are talking all about mental health. And today is all about healing with audacity. So you see the four of us, we're doing it a little bit differently if you're watching the YouTube, and we're a little bit apart, but near and heart. But it's not going to stop our show today because we're going to tap in. We're going to talk about healing and grief. And I am super, super, super excited about our guest that is with us today. So, yeah, we're going to tap in, y'all. It's all about mental health, healing, grief, and yeah, a little bit of self-care, y'all. So, yeah, welcome back to With Audacity. But before that, I'm going to let Dr. Jas, y'all know she has a good self-care question for us. So I'm going to hush a little bit, and then we're going to get into the episode and introduce our guest, y'all.
All right, well, sounds good. Thanks, Jazz. Y'all love these check-in questions. And this is not a personal one, but I would like to know, what's your personal weather status? So how you feeling inside? Are you cloudy? Are you foggy? You sunny? You rainy? You know?
Yeah,
How you feeling?
and I definitely think we should just say who's on here so we can know who's speaking for who. So we'll know, like, so of course, you know, you have Dr. Care, Dr. Jas, and Lawyer Jas, but we have another doctor this time around. Yes, look at us, we're killing the game. With Dr.Mimi Sanders, and she's, like Jas said, we're gonna introduce her formally, and we're gonna just have an informal introduction of how she's feeling today. So that's gonna be the fourth member, the guest of With Audacity. So hi, Dr. Mimi.
Hello.
So yeah, Jas, how are you feeling today? Are you cloudy? Are you foggy?
I think I woke up foggy. Just kind of like, whoa, it's been a crazy week. But internally, my mental health, I'm sunny. There's no clouds. If you would have asked me last week, I may have had a different answer. But this week, I am actually sunny. Mentally, I am okay. I have to thank Jesus, therapy, and my mom for that. So yeah, I am very sunny this week, and I am just thankful for that. And I'm gonna leave it there.
That's the power three right there.
Yeah.
Dr. Mimi, how are you doing today? Are you sunny, cloudy, rainy, hazy?
Oh, good question. Here I am, physically, I am in Cleveland, Ohio. And if you've ever visited Cleveland, Ohio, it's always like, well, not always, but often you don't see the sun. And so it's kind of always cloudy. And so when the sun does come up, like everyone kind of perks up and their mood is better. So the sun's been out all this week. Okay.
Ooh.
And so I guess my forecast, how it's been kind of like, I've been like sunny, but I think right now I want to answer a little bit different. Like I'm winding down, and so I'm like in a sunset mood. You know, I'm in like
Ooh.
it was a good day. I know it was a good day, and so I'm winding down. I have two small kids. My husband got them. I'm with you guys, so I'm cool. I'm a little chill. But the sun is still kind of going down. I'm just like, all right, this is a good vibe.
Okay.
That's where I am. I like
Yes.
that. I'm in a
I'm here
sunset
for
mood.
it.
Okay.
Okay.
I know.
I'm gonna
Carol, are
take
you in a
that.
sunset mood? Tell us.
Oh no. I mean that was a good answer. What kind of mood am I in? Da, 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 da. I feel like I might be in a sunrise mood because I'm waiting on a lot of things to drop.
Come
And so
on.
I'm looking over the horizon. I'm looking for the sun to come up. And it's like a little, like, you know how you're still sleepy, you're still groggy, but you finna attack the day. That's how I am right now.
Nice.
Yes. Dr. Jas, hit us with it.
Dr. Jas about
Yeah.
to hit us with it. I already know.
No, I feel y'all. I feel windy. Like I feel like I'm being
Ooh.
full steam ahead. Like I'm not being pushed around, but I'm getting a little push. Like it's next step. Like what's up? Where you at? Spring is here. Everything is in full bloom. Loving the flowers. Loving how it's feeling outside. Like May feels good to me. So I feel like I'm windy. I'm feeling the push and the like being propelled to keep moving forward.
So are you in a windy, like a storm, or are you just like, okay, all right, just checking.
Nah, not like a storm. I'm not being tossed around. That's what I'm saying. I'm not being tossed around. Nah, just give me a little push forward what I need to do. Mm-hmm.
A good wind will get you happy.
Nice breeze, breezy. Maybe I should say breezy. I don't know. There we go. I'm breezy.
Oh my God. I love y'all. That was good. That was a personal weather status. I'm gonna ask myself in the morning, how you feeling? What do you want to be today? But Mimi, before we get started, Dr. Mimi, before we get started, we have to ask you, for those of you who don't know Mimi, can you just tell the people your brief bio, who you are, what you do, your stance on mental health, and why you became a psychiatrist? Okay. Well, I am Dr. Erykah Sanders, also known as Dr. Mimi. I am a board certified psychiatrist. So I see adults. I have an affinity for women. So I like to say that I specialize in women's mental health. And currently, I am both employed in terms of I work as an inpatient psychiatrist, but I also have a private practice where I see women for like mental health needs, and that goes with depression, anxiety, postpartum depression, just stress management, work-life balance, you name it. We kind of just talk about it. And like I said, I am in Cleveland, and I am licensed in Ohio, but also actively getting my licensures at other places like Alabama, Georgia. So I'm getting myself together in that aspect to see women in this virtual world. So I do have Instagram or Facebook. Everything in terms of social media is Dr.Mimi.care. And I'm most active, I guess, on Instagram, but you can find me on all social platforms, as well as my website, drmimi.care.
You better, girl.
I'm telling you, just. But I mean, give them a little bit more because I've read the book. Tell them about the book. Oh yeah, okay. You travel and your whole seminars. I'm just gonna put it out there. I'm gonna toot her horn for her.
And that's right. Hey, women supporting women.
She's a little bit of a boss. I'm just saying.
Yes.
But thank you. So I did write a book. I started writing my book, Inner Beauty, and it's located on the website, drmimi.care. But it is a book actually that started as my journal. So I started journaling, really started journaling back in 2014. And during this particular time, I was going through a lot of transition. So I was going through transition of I got married. During this time, I was starting my career. I had a miscarriage. It was just a lot going on in terms of me trying to cope with all these transitions, cope with loss. During this time, I also lost my grandmother. And so a lot of things were kind of rocky. And it was just, I did not know, even as a practicing psychiatrist, how to cope with everything. And at that time, all at once. So I began actively going to a tea shop or a coffee shop and just journaling how I was feeling, how I was coping then, how was my emotions, was I labeling them correctly? And the first two chapters of my book actually is just me being transparent of how things were going, how things were not going. And it just kind of turned into this self-help book for women. And I encourage everyone to kind of check it out. It's real, it's raw, but it has those true coping strategies that I found helpful and I still find helpful for myself as well as teaching other women. And so with that book, like Lawyer Jas was saying, I would, during the book launch, I was traveling. This is pre-COVID, and just doing like book tours, and we'll have like seminars, and we'll teach about emotional intelligence, other coping strategies. It was really fun. Everything that I do or has like a little feminine flair. So we had like a tea party, and so we'll dress up, have big hats. So it was really fun, but we were also getting substance. And so that is what I truly love to give women. Like, yes, let's go to the spa, let's get a facial, let's get our nails done, hair done, but also let's go a little bit deeper or a lot deeper, and let's make sure that we are healing ourselves internally and really truly practicing inner beauty. So that is kind of my spiel on the book and my seminars. I'm actively right now trying to get a particular online institute where the ladies can have particular courses. But in the meantime, I do have master classes that I held. So I'm all things mental health, all things inner beauty, okay?
Yeah. Dr. Mimi, like I said earlier, you are perfect for this podcast because we encourage everyone to go dig a little deeper. We actually sing the song from Princess and the Frog, dig a little deeper. Like we want you to do that. And two, we want you to do everything unapologetic and with audacity. And so when you're being raw, when you're being transparent, you're not apologizing for anything that you've gone through. You're, you really are saying, this is me, and we're going to make it work. Yeah, Dr. Mimi, your resume is, first of all, amazing. You're amazing. Thank you for giving so much time and effort to women and, making us shine like the stars that we are.
Seriously.
Seeing that a lot has happened in the last year of 2020, we've had major deaths of people that we really idolize. We have family deaths or people who are close to us because of COVID. We've been having cabin fever because we haven't been able to get out and touch people. Have you seen an increase as far as the number of patients that you have, or just maybe more people feeling like they need
treatment, stuff like that?
Yeah, feeling that they need that person to talk to?
Well, let me take it back just a little bit. So when the pandemic, I guess, started for the United States, I would say it was around this time last year. And so I work as an inpatient doctor as well as an outpatient doctor. So those are kind of different. So when it started, everyone that the people that were used to coming into the hospital, who were used to having involvement with the mental health system, it drastically decreased. And I was shocked by that because, hey, you have been involved in the mental health and you've actively been getting treated, and then no one was actually coming to the hospital. And I was assuming that it will increase automatically. And I'm assuming now that people were just really anxious, really scared to come into, even though I'm in a crisis, but to come inside an hospital in a closed space, I don't want any parts of it. I'd much rather kind of, unfortunately, suffer outside. And then no one was coming in the hospital, so it kind of dropped down. And then then the outpatient world went virtual. And so that was actually a blessing, because now people who in the past didn't have access to a mental health provider could now be seen. Because if you remember, and maybe some people do not know, they listed the restrictions of actually being able to be seen by a virtual doctor. So I was able to see people in Alabama, even though I didn't have a full licensure there. They were granting temporary licensures. And so people actually were acknowledging, hey, this is having a toll on my mental health, and I'm going to seek help in the outpatient. So I think that was truly a blessing. And so that is where I started to develop a digital mental health clinic. And women were just, calling, wanting to seek help. How do I, cope with this particular pandemic, this civil unrest? How do I cope with grief? Like, I need this help. And I'm actually, less frightened to meet you online and, talk about these things online. So it was a different feel. And we're still, as mental health professionals, I would say that we're still trying to kind of get the new feel of it, because I don't think it's ever going to go back to the way it used to be. And so that is exciting for me, because now we can get, people can get help that they really, I think, want it, but we're afraid to actually go set the appointment up, go walk into the building. And, that does provoke anxiety. And now I can log in, I can get my appointment, book my appointment online, and I can just see this person. And so it was really, we kind of filled it out. And I felt that it was good to see different perspectives from an inpatient psychiatrist, and then also at the same time as an outpatient psychiatrist. But people are wanting this mental health help. They're acknowledging what has been going on, and then acknowledging how they're feeling.
And so my question is, everyone always says, there's 5 stages of grief. Is that true? And if so, do you think that this might be a process? Like you said, the process of saying, yes, I need help. Yes, I'm going to have the confidence to do it. Yes, I'm going to have the confidence to stay on it. Is any truth to that?
Well, okay. So the 5 stages of help that I think that you're talking about, or not stages of help, the stages of grief. No, the stages of grief, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what you're referring to is a particular model, and I can't remember the lady's name, but she was, I think, helping cancer patients. And she would notice how they were going through some type of grief process. And she would say that the first stage was like shock or disbelief. And then it would be I think, anger, then bargaining, and then depression, then acceptance. And this was in the context of these patients that she was seeing that were dealing with cancer. And so that, I believe, kind of transformed into, this must be the stages of grief. Now, do I see clients that are in one of those stages or multiple stages after having a loss? Absolutely. And when I am seeing clients that are coming to me particularly for grief, I do, as a clinician, I do think of that. Okay, what stage of grief that he or she may be in? And some people come in not even knowing that they're grieving, and are just really, really upset, angry. And then I can follow that particular emotion or indicator and say, okay, what was the loss? What happened in your past? What are you grieving? And so I just use it as a clinician as an indicator, but I think it is worth understanding that there are particular emotions that you are going through or you will go through during grief. Now, you can go through depression and anger at the same time. You can have, you can be in shock, and then also be bargaining, meaning, okay, the Lord, if you take this away from me, or if you bring this person back to me, then I promise I'll do dot, dot, dot. So all this is, I mean, we are very complex human beings, and the brain and everything, and our emotions are very, complex. And so you can't say it's not as concrete as we would like it to be. It's like, okay,
and I think
girl,
that's where we see that it has to be one emotion at a time. Like, I can only be going through this right now. I'm just depressed right now. I'm just in shock right now. But really, we could be feeling 3 at a time. And I don't think we thought this before. That's a good point. I haven't thought that. I'm just thinking I'm supposed to be just being sad right now. So I didn't think that either.
No, it can be a whole bunch, but I do encourage people, and this is a good resource. If you just Google like emotional wheel online, and it can actually help you detail your emotions a little bit better, especially if you're going through a traumatic experience, or you're just going through something that is just difficult or stressing you out. Google emotional wheel and put a little bit more detail on what you're actually feeling. It may not be that you are, you're sad. It may be that you're feeling neglected, or you are feeling abandoned, or you're feeling something that is a little bit less, and I hate to use the word primitive, but we need to go a little bit further or go deeper, like you said, into our detail those emotions, so we know how to appropriately react to those emotions.
Yeah. For sure.
Thank you so much. And so when we talk about, and y'all can, y'all chime in, the indicators of grief, I know you said we could ask ourselves some questions, but is it anything else that just indicates grief? Like, okay, some people know, okay, I'm crying because of no reason, or I'm stressed out and I don't know why. Like, is there any other indicators?
Or not even beyond grief, or I'm beyond grief, or beyond like I need help. That moment where it's just kind of like, what should people do when they're either in grief, or at a moment of I need help, or a moment of something isn't right? Because sometimes you can't even put those feelings into words. I know, I don't know if people have been there before, but I know I've had a moment where it's like, I don't know what I'm feeling. I'm just feeling that something isn't right. So if people get to those feelings or emotions, or like Kara said, what are some indicators that people should do if they don't even know that they're going through grief, or going through either one of those 5 stages? What should they do at that
point? Well, I think if you want to, okay, so as clinicians, we look at is the client being impaired? And if so, in which ways? So, indicators. How is your sleep? Yeah, right. How is your sleep? Are you able to fall asleep? Are you having difficulty falling asleep and staying asleep? Are you having nightmares? Are you how is your sleep quality, and how is your sleep hygiene? That can be an indicator. We talked about emotions. Emotions are indicators. So, don't run from that emotion that you are feeling, even if you may consider it a negative emotion. Even if you may consider, okay, I'm feeling depressed. All right, feel that emotion, but also, am I being impaired in any way? How is your appetite? Are you eating less? Are you eating more? Are you restricting? Are you doing any purging? Like that is an indicator. How is your concentration? Are you able to concentrate, whether at work, at home? Are you present with others when you are in their company, or are you just kind of not there and you're having some type of depersonalization experience? How your interest level? Like I used to love to do X, Y, and Z, and now I'm by myself. Hey, I don't even do that anymore. So these are things that you can go beyond just emotions, but how's my sleep, my appetite, my concentration, my interest, my motivation? How are those things for me? And if you find that those are impaired, then let's seek out resources. And you may need someone to help you or guide you through this particular process or through this particular experience that you are having.
Yeah. I know for me, whenever I'm going through something, or something isn't right, or anything in my life is off, stress comes, it's always my sleep. Like, and I always, me and sleep are not the best of friends anyway. So let something be wrong with me, trigger me in any type of way. I'm not sleeping. I'm up. Like I'm just, yeah. So that's, I know my number one indicator will always be.
But if you know your number one indicator, if it's sleep, then you know that you have to be proactive in that. Meaning you have to make sure that you have a really good sleep routine all the time. So whether that is, hey, I'm not eating so close to bedtime. I'm having a sleep routine. I'm having the temperature right. I'm not drinking alcohol too close to bedtime, even though we want to have like a glass of wine sometimes. So like be proactive if you've already indicated what can be an indicator.
Okay. Oof, boy. All right.
Some gems.
I know
Dr.
Jas. I'll say, Dr. Jas, how you feeling, girl?
I'm feeling like I'm taking this all in. Like I love therapy and like just looking deeper, digging deeper parts of it. So when you mentioned the indicators, I'm like, check, just like, doing that thing in my head like a matrix. But I feel like as a person of myself and all of us maybe on this call, we do so much for like our job or like others, our family. Like how do you as a professional, mental health professional, how do you check that within yourself and hold yourself accountable, like making sure that you're creating this like self-help? And when you said you were journaling, like how did you stick to that? Were you going to tea shop daily? Did you have a routine that you woke up and went, or just give me some jewels more, because I'm literally eating this up because I'm like, how do I get my life together? Please.
That's a good one, because it's sticking to it. You're right, Jas. It's sticking to it for me because I get off track. I'm with you on that one.
And it's just like physically working out, like it's hard to kind of get into that groove. But once you get into that groove, your body sometimes craves for that exercise. And so to answer your question, that was back in 2014, like I was just all the way gone. Like I was like, okay, I know this is not right. This is not how I'm supposed to be acting. I'm not supposed to be feeling. I know I fell victim to the mental health stigma. I was like, I'm a mental health professional. I'm not going to go see anyone. And so it was right. But it was like I was becoming impaired. Like I was not sleeping well. I was losing weight or even gaining weight. Like I was not well. And I knew that I needed to go see someone, but I also knew I needed to be intentional with a routine. And so just again, like working out, I needed to schedule a time where I would just have that particular self-care. So I'm all about intentionality and being proactive. And so if you see me I always have a journal with me. I always have a planner with me. And I will always have my laptop. And I make sure, even now, that I have to wake up because I have small kids. And so I have to wake up before the house wakes up. And so if my kid, he is a early riser, if he's going to wake up all the time at 6 a.m., I got to be up at 5. Or I got to, I know. And
at 5, I'm still.
He's gotten better because last year I was waking up at 5 a.m. But he's gotten better because I was needing that time for a devotion and needing that time to kind of pour into myself, because like you said, we constantly pour out. We pour out and pour out. And again, we've all heard you cannot pour out from an empty cup. So how are you replenishing yourselves? And that takes intentionality, and I have to be proactive. And I just have to wake up early. I was never a morning person, but now I crave for that. Okay, this is how I'm going to get through. So I need to get a good word. I need to get some good prayer. And I need to make sure that I'm journaling and making sure I'm doing my own weather forecast or check-in. I'm doing that, and I'm writing some skills down that I know that I perhaps need to practice throughout this week.
Oh.
And so your accountability partner through that, was that the person that you were going and talking to, or was that like your partner? Was that a girlfriend?
That's a good question. Did you
That is a really
believe
good
in
question.
accountability partners? You know, when it comes to self care, all of that, do you believe in them?
Well, okay. Let me give you some tea, I guess. Okay.
We
So
love tea here.
Well,
okay, so the therapist that I went to was during like 2014 was actually the therapist that my husband and I were going to premarital with.
Okay.
And so during premarital, she had told me after I guess we had like a little conversation, my husband and I, we like to say not an argument, but heated fellowship in therapy.
I'm taking that.
The therapist the therapist told me, "Oh, you need to come by yourself." I said, "What?" Yes, and I said, "I know she's not talking to me. Like you need to get him. Get him. He has the problem. Okay, not me."
Oh, weak.
She said, "No. It's you gotta come by yourself." And I was like, "Okay." So I had to swallow all the pride that I had, and sit in the office and just take in those particular, whether it was communication, my communication style was off. I was just unhappy with myself and unhappy with certain aspects as an individual that I was bringing into the marriage. And that is when I was, okay, let me be actively engaged in this individual therapy. So that's the tea. So I was like, I don't want to go by myself, but you say I need to go. I don't believe you, but I will go.
Right.
Okay.
Can I ask one more question? Yeah. Was your husband, was he like, I told you? I'm like,
yes. And then, it makes you madder. You just like
the fellowship was even.
Right. And it was something stupid. Like, okay, so he had said something about cooking, and I was like, I work all day.
Yes.
And you're gonna get what you're gonna get after I then worked all day. And then I had made a reference, and the ladies, do not do this. We all come from different backgrounds, but that was just like, and if you're from Cleveland, you from Cleveland, I had told my husband, I was like, you from East 79th and Superior, which is, a little urban neighborhood. I said, you gonna get this crock pot. I said, you may not, I'm not just a gourmet meal, and you from here? Like, no. And so she was like, no. The therapist was like, no, that is not effective. This is not how we need to do this. You need to come by yourself. I see the issue. It's you in this moment.
It's you.
Yes, but it's you. It is you. So, all that being said, at that time, she was my accountability partner. Okay. I do believe in accountability partners outside of a licensed professional or therapist. Especially if this is a girlfriend or even a girlfriend or how would you say a girlfriend that is, I don't know what to say, but equally yoked, meaning that she is also psychologically minded and is in a place where she is able to listen to you and have some mindful listening and not bring her own stuff that she may be dealing with into when you are talking, when you are venting, and so it doesn't get so complex. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That was a word. Okay. I liked it.
Yeah, because sometimes I think that we take our sister time as like, oh, this is my therapy because we're all, telling what's wrong with us. Yeah, and like, oh, we had a good session because we just got, but that might not be, like you said, you need to have the mindful listening and not just the bad session or just the, everybody throw in what's wrong with them today.
Yeah. Because that's going to make things worse, like all around. You're gonna feel that you were not heard, and then also, emotions transfer. Yeah. And so if
she or he is going through their own thing and is not at a place where they can actually be that true support, then no shade. Just recognize that may be the person, that may not be the person that you need to go to at that time.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you'll stop praying for you and start praying for them, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's like, no, my prayer needs to be at the top of the list right now. Sorry.
Yeah.
And as women, that's what we do. We say, okay, let me pick it up and let me carry it. Let me.
Mm-hmm. And we start carrying. That's how we end up hunched over because we want to carry the world. So
That's right.
you know what? So since we've been talking about accountability partners and being intentional and all of that. So with all of that, I guess the topic of boundaries comes up because I think at a certain point, part of your own mental health and keeping your own self okay, I believe you have to set certain boundaries. And that could be with friends, your job, your relationships, anybody. So have you found or do you believe in the mental health realm or what is your stance on boundaries or what advice do you give to people about setting boundaries to keep yourself mentally okay? Because work can become draining, friendships can become draining, relationships can become draining. So I do believe that with certain people, especially when you're in the workforce, I believe you have to set up certain boundaries. And boundaries are important. No can become a good word to say. So what's your advice or your take on boundaries and how should we go about that at this point?
This is a really good question, and it's a lot in it. So first, there's type of boundaries, okay? And so there's personal boundaries, and then there's interpersonal boundaries. And so if we want to start with personal boundaries, that is that's within your boundaries, what you have control over. These are your emotions, your thoughts, your values, that is what you value in this season, your attitude or your orientation or stance towards something, and like your belief, and then your limits. So those are your personal boundaries that you can set or for yourself. So I have my emotions are within my boundaries. I have these set values that I have set for this season. We can do a values exercise of like, okay, write down values and then you take away like 3 of them. Not saying that those are not important to you, but figure out what are your values, your big 3 in this particular season. And then you have, of course, like your beliefs, your attitudes, and then like what limits you set for yourself. So those are personal boundaries. What I heard from you is also was interpersonal boundaries. Boundaries like professional boundaries, relationship boundaries, sexual boundaries, material or money boundaries. So those are boundaries that you, there's are like kind of interacting with other people. So how do I set those boundaries? You can only set those boundaries once you know your personal boundaries. Are you guys following me? Okay, so you can't set your interpersonal boundaries unless you know your own personal boundaries. So I encourage everyone to figure out what are your big 3 in terms of your values. So right now in this particular season of, back in 2014, we'll go back there. My values, because I was putting in work with my marriage, my career, and perhaps money, making money or wealth, that was in 2014. Those have changed. Not saying my marriage, wealth, and my career are not important. However, in 2021, my values now is perhaps entrepreneurship, my children, and empowering women. And so once someone asks something of me in terms of can you do something for me? Can you take on another project at work? How does that measure up with my personal values, which are my boundaries? Okay, so if I'm at work and you say, okay, you need to be another head of a committee, is that going to affect my children? Is that going to affect my entrepreneurship? And is that going to affect me empowering women? That's a question that I have to ask myself. And so now I'm able to set that particular boundary with that person, that boss, that whatever, because I know my values, I know my emotions, I know my thoughts, my beliefs. So establish what those are first, and then you'll find that it will be easier for you to have these better interpersonal boundaries, whether that is in relationships, professional, sexual, material, those interpersonal boundaries.
That was a word. When I say I'm just eating it up. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. I have like one final question before we like keep questioning you. That like we just need to
right,
get all
I
this
mean, you want to talk to her all day, but it's like we gotta wrap it up.
No, she like she gets paid for that. She's like, you know what I'm saying? Like she gets paid for that, y'all.
Yeah, but I mean, this is like something I feel like when you mentioned earlier about how therapy has moved more onto online. So like, oh, people have been afraid to go sit on someone's couch. Now you can do it sitting on your own couch. But you mentioned that you like had a stigma yourself as a mental health professional. Like, hey, I don't need mental health. But I know that there's so many stigmas, especially in our community as Black people, about mental health and about seeking therapy when it's definitely needed and when we have been traumatized on so many levels, especially systematically. I was just wondering if you feel, are we as a Black community coming more into like understanding and being open to mental wellness and the idea of therapy, like especially in the church, you know, since it was once like seen taboo and you didn't talk about it at all. So.
I think absolutely. And let me tell you a funny story. Well, it wasn't funny at that time. So I was, I'm a psychiatrist, right? And I went to undergrad at Tennessee State University, and then I went to medical school at Ohio University. And when I graduated from medical school, I told my mom, I said, Mom, I think I'm going to be a psychiatrist, and I'm going to go to a psychiatry residency. So she tells me, and granted, my mom is from Alabama. She's a Southern Belle, and you know, had never really interacted, or my family hasn't really interacted with therapy or psychiatry. She tells me, "All that money, and you're not gonna be a real doctor?" Well, okay. So that at that time, I was like taken aback and was like, yeah, we still gonna practice, and we still gonna be a real doctor, but this is the type of doctor that I have chosen to be. And I say that, and I have that story because growing up where I grew up, I never saw a psychiatrist, never knew a psychiatrist, and also just thinking back as a child or even as a teenager, or even I think in college, I never interacted with a therapist. And so I can see where she came from. I can see where my mom came from. Like, okay, I'm not too familiar with this. And however, because of platforms like this, because of, you know, people, you know, wanting to get more help, people raising awareness about mental health, the access, I do see African Americans and other people of color seeking out help and the stigma reducing. I do. Is there more work to be done? Absolutely. But with the more access that we have, with more people of color going into this particular field, because it is well needed, I see a change. So I am very hopeful. I've worked with churches, I guess in Alabama as well as in Ohio, from the spiritual as well as emotional and mental health side. So it's more welcoming. Even medications, because as a psychiatrist, I do prescribe medications that has its own stigma on top of mental health as relates to just going to therapy. Then I take medication. that the pharmacological or taking medication aspect of it is the stigma is reducing as well. So just getting the word out, understanding that everybody has mental health, everybody has their own stress and has goes through these issues. 1 out of 4 people have suffered from depression. Anxiety is one of the most common medical conditions. This is like beyond diabetes and hypertension. You know, most people are going to their primary care doctor and having some form of anxiety. So just getting more educated and educating the public. I think that, you know, we've come a long way, but there's still work to be done. But in the church, I'm working with people, like I said, and it is, you know, it's encouraging. It's very encouraging.
Yes, that's so awesome, and I think it just makes my heart happy to hear that. So I think we all can agree, and we definitely wanted to use this platform to spread the word and just remind people that no matter what you're going through, that it is okay to need help and say I need help. So yeah, I think that's just a message that we wanted to spread. So yeah, but
especially in the time of a pandemic, because I know that they're saying now with people who had COVID, they're experiencing depression or anxiety. And then that could be the same thing for someone who was close with somebody who, you know, had COVID or something like that. So it's one of those things that it's becoming more and more present in people's mind. As like you said before, it might not have been as present in someone's mind.
And the art that you heard was my cousin Camille. Hey Camille, Camille's a twin and she has twins. This is just a little boom boom for y'all. But thank you so much for my cousin Camille Bully. I can find her on Facebook, and the music that you heard is also on like Apple and stuff like that. So you can download it and keep it, and then you know that we're gonna have it in our playlist as well. So you'll be able to hear her throughout the week. So once again, thanks, cause Camille Bully or Camille Hines Bully. Love you, boo.
To say about how everything in terms of like I guess the pandemic, the civil unrest, and then the economic impact, and I am seeing people coming in who've had COVID that are saying that I have never experienced anxiety in pre-COVID. And now I don't know what this is. And the same thing with depression. And so because we don't know a lot about this particular virus or the sequela after the virus, that is more the reason to reach out to get help if you are experiencing those type of symptoms.
Yeah, I will say, when I had COVID, just a quick story, and then I will wrap it up. But I will say, I thought like they were like, okay, you got to go for like a 2-week quarantine and, you know, whatever. I'm like, okay, that's just 2 weeks of Netflix and, you know, I'll be all right. 2 weeks of me, Netflix, and the blanket. It'll go by fast. But that is definitely not the feeling that you have. And when I first started, like Jazz, it's definitely not the feeling that you have. Like after about day 3, it got pretty real. And my mom, she would call me and she'd be like, I'm just calling and I'm just checking on your mental. And I'm like, what? This wording that you're using. Okay. And so she would drive by like literally every day. She'd be like, because I think you need to like see somebody and you need to like make sure that you're seeing other people. Because it really does, after a while, being alone for so many days, it really can start to mess with your mind, and it can really start to bother you. So I definitely think that COVID can really start to affect people. And if you are experiencing some COVID after anxiety, and after I had COVID, when I tell you my anxiety level was on a serious 10, like I did not want to go out. Like my mom was like, okay, you want to go out? And I was like, not really. And she was like, well, you want to go to the store with me? I went to the store and I literally wanted to have a mask on my whole body. Like it's like nothing I could even really describe to people. So I definitely can attest to what Kara is saying, like the COVID anxiety before, during, after, real.
Yeah, it's definitely that, and even COVID guilt, because I know a lot of people have been in families where, they might have survived, but someone else didn't, or they feel like they brought COVID into the family, and everyone might have survived, but still, like you said, you don't know what's going to be coming up next because we don't know about this virus. So like the COVID guilt that people have, it's real. It's okay. Yeah. That's why we have people like Dr.Mimi who have dedicated their lives to making sure that we're okay. And we just want to thank you again for, coming on with Audacity and giving a face to therapy sometimes, because I feel like we don't have a face to therapy, and having a face to someone who has been there, has gone through it, is continuously going through it, and just makes it a little bit more personable.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed our conversation. But to anyone who is listening or viewing, just, if you're having any of those indicators that we talked about, seek your resources. I know a good website is NAMI, NAMI, I think it's .org, and it's National Alliance for Mental Illness. And they have actual, like, you can put in your zip code and they can bring up providers that are located in your area.
Awesome.
And what's the name of your website one more time?
It's Dr.Mimi.care, DRMIMI.care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, before we wrap up, you guys, you all know that we have to do a Today in Black History moment. Today is May 18th. And on May 18th, 1986, if you all remember, this was the date that Plessy v. Ferguson came into fruition. So on May 18th, 1896, the Supreme Court ruled separate but equal facilities constitutional on interstate railroads. For about 50 years, the Plessy v. Ferguson decision was upheld, and it upheld the principle of racial segregation. Across the country in the U.S., laws mandated separate but equal accommodations on buses and trains, hotels, theaters, and schools. So this was the day that Plessy v. Ferguson, which mandated separate but equal, came into fruition on May 18th of 1896. So it was I'm not going to say the best moment of history, but an important moment in history. So yes, May 18th, 1896 was the day that we saw Plessy v. Ferguson come into fruition, y'all. So yeah.
Hey, in some places it's still in fruition. So I feel like that's definitely a history fact that needs to be said all the time, because we can't think that it was just ended with Thurgood Marshall and Board of Education versus Brown. It's still in many places in Montgomery, Alabama, it's still separate but equal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Dr. Jas, do you have a charity for us this month?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank again Dr. Mimi for all those great resources. You mentioned earlier that emotional will. I'm definitely gonna look that up, and your book. Okay, I can't wait to dig into that. But excited to actually write out my personal boundaries too. Like,
for sure.
Like, man, I'm just ready to like journal and get into it. So I just wanted to.
Y'all know Dr. Jas has been taking notes. Like, Dr. Jas always takes notes.
Just in there. Those indicators, I'm like, it was 5, y'all. Anyway, but I'm just thankful once again. And then a place that I actually got to visit, it's in Chimacum, Washington, near Seattle. It's called Fan River, and this is a cidery, but also a farm that actually just started a center. So it's like a Chimicum center now. And it's for the community where they're working with equity, ecology, arts, and agriculture. And they just want to work with other local grassroots organizations to like focus on social justice. So when I visited Finn River, I was like one of the only people that looked like me, but it was so welcoming. It was such a small community that like served itself. It had its own local food system, its own grocery store and farm. Like everything was like what I wanted it to be. And they are now, especially the owner, Christy, is the best and really is doing some groundbreaking work out there in Washington. So that's our charity for May, Chimicum Center from Finn River. And yeah, y'all check them out there at finnriver.com.
All right. Well, you all, Dr. Mimi, before we go, can you all please let everyone know again your website information, your social media handles again, and the name of your book and all of that before we go once again, just so that people can know where to find you and again, the name of the resources that you plugged, just so we can highlight that once more.
Okay. Well, it's my website is drmimi.care. So it's drmimi.care. On all social media, I'm drmimi.care. Again, drmimi.care. And my book is available online on my website, and it's Inner Beauty, bringing true beauty out of every woman. It's available there, as well as a self-care inner beauty box. You can purchase the inner beauty box, and it can be delivered to your house, so you can be intentional and proactive with your self-care. And those resources, if you need particular mental health help and you're just looking for someone, you can go to NAMI, NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness.org, and you can simply, I think, put in a zip code, and it can bring up resources that's near you.
All right, you guys. Just claps all around. Thank you so much, Dr. Mimi. I enjoyed this episode. I can't wait to just really unplug tonight and just kind of go back and go through my personal values, really do a self-check and get back to my journaling, because I've gotten off track with that seriously. So I can't text Jazz when I go to bed because she'll be asleep, but she'll probably respond in the morning.
I'm an early riser like you, Dr. Mimi. I don't have kids yet, so I guess I'm preparing.
There you go.
And we can't forget our music artist of the episode. Who is that, Lawyer Jas?
Camille Bully. She is a gospel artist, and clearly from what you guys just heard, she is super amazing. And y'all can find her and follow her on Facebook. So yeah.
She's my cousin.
Oh, shout out to the family.
I know. Shout out to my cousin. She literally came in and was like, of course. And I was like, this is why you're my kin.
Yeah. Super amazing. I feel the spirit. So I love it.
And I think it's perfect for healing.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
artist, Sunshine. She is at Art Time Sun. She has some dope pieces, y'all. So y'all make sure to follow our artist.
I also want to say that with Sunshine, she does paint and sips now. So you can go to her website, and all the information is going to be, we're going to give it to you. But you can do a paint and sip, and she'll send you everything. So you can get your Dr. Mimi care box. You can get your paint and sip by Sunshine, and you can have it like boom. And she does live paint and sips on IG too. So you can have everything ready and, have you a little cute date night. I did one. It was wonderful. I can show you what I did. It's cute. So shout out.
Post a picture.
Yeah, thank you. Shout out to both of our artists, and of course, shout out to Dr. Mimi, and then shout out to my girls, Jazz and Jazz.
Yeah. And you, Dr. Woods. How can they find you, Dr. Woods?
You can follow me at FlipsPro on Instagram.
Y'all already know. Follow me at You Love Jazz. You Love with the 3_Jazz. Follow with Audacity across the board, and follow our New Orleans shawty. Come on, Jazz.
Magnolia Soldier.
Yeah.
ULJA_. You know how it goes, but it's Dr. Jazz too, so feel free to follow me.
I'm still waiting for that rap, Dr. Jazz.
Be patient, boy. It's gonna come.
I'm gonna get you like from a 504 to the 334, and then you can just that's it. Then you can go from there.
And we out the door. Peace.
All right, you guys. We out this thing, man. Bye, y'all.
Bye, baby.
I am not who I want the world to see. I am not who I want it to be about. I am not who I want the world to see. I am not who I want it to be about. It's not it's not it's not it's not
Everyone's listening and watching you now.
Oh my God. Is this thing on?
Is this thing on?